Thank you, Scott. I'd like to thank SAGES for the opportunity to present my complication. Is this how I roll this? Or this one? Green? Here we go. I have nothing to disclose. Surgery is a humbling thing, and all of us, as we do more surgeries, we got to have complications. So this is me and my famous dog, Mochi. So our case is a 33-year-old Caucasian female with a known history of FAP. She's a status post-open proctocolectomy, mucosectomy, and J-pouch anal anastomosis for multiple high-grade dysplastic polyps and 2 synchronous colon cancers. This was done elsewhere. So she was under a strict surveillance program, and in addition to that, she had an open incisional hernia repair with mesh ×4, so her upper midline was completely scarred in. On surveillance endoscopy, so she has a known history of inurable duodenal polyps when she was at Walter Reed, but then when she moved to Jacksonville, she was under our program of surveillance. 2 years later, she was found to have 2 large duodenal masses at D1 and D2, abutting the ampulla. These were not amenable for endoscopic resections. Biopsy were poorly differentiated adeno-CA with signet cell features, which is a bad prognostic sign. So her metastatic workup was PET scan negative. We opted for open pancreatic duodenectomy. This was done in a routine fashion. I usually do upper midline, but in her case, I did a bilateral subcostal because of the scarred mid-abdomen. Operative time was 4 hours, crystalloid 4 liters, colloid 500 cc's, EBL 50 cc. The pancreatic jejunostomy was done using Blumgart technique, inner layer 5-0 proline, and the hepatic jejunostomy was a single layer 4-0 Vicryl RB needle, and the gastric jejunostomy is anticolic stapled anastomosis. Very unremarkable operation. 5 days later, I was just having a glass of wine at night, and then the chief resident called my cell. I said, okay, here we go. So he said, this lady is not feeling well. She's confused. She's requiring high oxygen requirement. Sepsis alert. She moved to the ICU. And then at that time, it was noted she had sudden change in the JP drain output. It's pure bilious, more than 500 cc's in 8 hours. She was started on broad spectrum antibiotics, and we scanned her with IV contrast. And this is what we found. There's a large fluid collection on the right side in the subhepatic, and this is the other view, axial, and you can see it's a very big fluid collection, even though she has drains in place, but the drains were not doing much. So she goes to IR at nighttime. They put extra drains in. It was pure bile, and the volume was very, very scary. Over the next day, went up to 1.2 liters, and we wanted to define the amount of leak she had from. So we did a isotope study here, as you can see, and there is complete non-opacification of her small bowel. So everything seems to be pouring in the upper abdomen. I learned from Horacio over the years is that you always be involved in the hiring of your IR guys, because this is very important. If you are to do complex operations, you better be involved in the hire and recruit of IR people, because they could be very helpful to you. So you can see here, after 6 hours, they managed to get 6 French into the right ductal system. It's an undilated ductal system, very, very difficult. And you can see all the contrast is in the right upper quadrant. Nothing is going down into the small bowel. And then this is, so they shot the contrast, and everything is outside the bowel. So There's another view. You can see there's complete disconnection of our HJ. So you see the contrast is just below the common hepatic duct. So I'll leave it at this, and we'll open the case for discussion and vote.
Well, I'm going to start with Rory, because it would be unfair to start with Horacio.
Hey, I did the bariatric ones first.
Yeah, this is tough. Clearly, your anastomosis has been disrupted. Obviously, I haven't done this kind of surgery in a number of years, but I would have definitely re-explored based on it looking like the anastomosis was down.
I mean, you're going to have to re-explore at some point. How many days post-op was this?
Day 5.
Day 5.
So by the time we are here, like day 7 now.
And so, you know, again, a stable situation, you can drain that. The patient's not septic. It gives you some time to make a plan. You know, it's a somewhat awkward time, not the worst time to go back in. So it wouldn't be completely wrong, similar to a duodenal stump blowout, to leave drains in, send the patient home, make sure that they're nutritionally maximized, and then bring them back, you know, weeks to months later. That would be an option. That early, I would probably be tempted to go back and do everything over again.
Actually, the patient was septic, right? At the beginning.
At the beginning, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that I agree with the concept of you need to control the leak, let them recover, and then come back. Now you have drainage of the biliary tree through a transhepatic biliary drain. You had access already. You saw the beautiful cholangiogram. Put drains, make sure that they're not fluid collections, and wait. And you can wait weeks as long as you're able to maintain the patient's nutritional status. And that way, when you go back, you'll take care of it. This is a similar approach that you would have to a major bile duct injury, the typical laparoscopic bile duct injury. If they didn't put clips on the proximal biliary tree and comes back 6-7 days, you do the same thing that you will be doing here. And then you can control and do an anastomosis that's going to have much higher chance of success than doing it on the conditions that this patient is.
So,
What's
sorry.
the timing when you would choose to explore versus just to do drains?
Explore immediately, you mean?
How many days post-op? If you found this bile leak on day 2, would that change that, or would you just?
Well, it's more than the time. You know, normally we do time in surgery because you don't want to go, you know, after 15 days. But here, the most important thing is you want that anastomosis to be successful, and if the patient is infected and septic, that anastomosis has a chance to fail again.
Horacio, was that true at the time that the sepsis alert went off? That was already true at the time that the flags went up, right?
That's correct. Yeah. It's different if you have a bile injury where the patient comes with 4 liters of bioloma on postoperative day number 2. Then you can go in and try to fix it. But if there's sepsis, then you don't want to do that.
So different thought process if patient is stable and you have just bile in your drain.
That's correct.
So I was very close of going into option 3. Actually, we were prepping her for the OR the next day, and the IR guy, he said, let me try something different. So I'm going to go.
And you can try, of course, to traverse the anastomosis with that drain.
So this 3D animation was done by Jeremy Linson, who was our chief resident. So this shows you exactly what happened. It's impressive, yeah.
Laughing on discomfort, yeah.
You don't put your chiefs on call?
So the advantage is that there is no colon here. So he used the small bowel, poke it in, go retrograde. And mate both things together. So he had a controlled fistula more or less through both axes, upper and lower. And this is the image 1 month later. And this is 3 months later. So it's very unconventional, but I think the IR guy did save the day for everybody.
Wow, that's great. So it's a new rendezvous procedure.
It is a rendezvous, yes. What he said that there was no colon. This helped a lot. So there is nothing in the way, because usually the colon got to be in the way there, you know. So he said, let me try one more thing before you go to the OR.
So
How far from the surgery are you?
Say it
How
again?
far from the initial surgery?
8 days.
No. What I mean now.
Oh, this one?
Yeah.
This one is 3 months after surgery.
Yeah. Eventually, you may have a stricture, right? You know that. But that's much easier to go and repair than trying to do a reconstruction.
Yes.
Then I commend you from not taking her to surgery, even though you had scheduled to.
Yeah.
How did he get the wire through the small bowel into the defect? Was that through the abdominal wall
Yes.
and into the small bowel?
He spent there like
and then out the hole?
8 hours. He was under anesthesia 8 hours.
Yeah, just for people that are not familiarized, both interventional radiology as well as gastroenterology, they do incredible things now. I mean, in many of the pancreas cancer patients, and some of that has been presented here at SAGES, people do a cholecysto duodenostomy through an endoscopic approach, and the same way trying to fix some biliary leaks through it. But he did a great job because this was almost complete separation, which is much more difficult.
Yeah.
And I mean, I guess you have no regrets, right? Like, I mean, about this, you have no regrets about this because it worked out well. But when
no,
you reviewed this again,
it's great. This is, I mean, Harasi knows. It's a mess going back on these cases. It's an absolute nightmare. I mean, I was on edge for, 3-4 days trying to decide what to do with this young lady. You know, it's
Since this is 3 months, this was before Christmas. Did you send what type of bottle of whiskey to the interventional radiologist for Christmas?
Well, Harasi, you and me had this conversation years ago, and you told me you have to be involved in the hire of these people because they will help you. And you're right. I mean, I'm involved in their hire all the time because I will know this guy is going to be good for me or not. So, thank you.
I commend you for the way how you took this.
Yeah.
all right, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.